Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, Earthlings on planet Earth, wherever you may be. It is quite early in the morning here. I'm doing this one early in the morning because I get up early in the morning and none of the rest of the family do. And he's promised to be quiet while I make this video. This video is a little bit on the heavy side. Well, and also to ask your opinion. Having been in the criminal justice system myself, and Graham, and obviously his stepson, and I've had friends and other people who've been involved in it, I have often advocated for a system, not my particular situation or Graham's, because they're irrelevant. Graham's was a smuggling, so it wouldn't apply, but it definitely would apply to Richard, and it would apply to perhaps people like Alex Belfield, although I don't know, it would depend on the victims. Victim offender mediation. Now, this suddenly came back into my mind because last night it was brought to my attention, and this video is not about Alex Belfield and Jeremy Vine. I'm using that case partly as an example of explaining why I advocate for this. And apparently there is such a thing. And it's called VOM, which is a very unfortunate acronym, and it stands for Victim Offender Mediation. And I will come to why Jeremy Vine and Alex Belfield have brought this back to the forefront of my mind. Now, I've been a victim of crime in the past. I've been burgled. I've been assaulted. I've been in some pretty bloody serious situations. I think the worst one ever was when someone held a shotgun to my head and was extremely disappointed to find out there were no cartridges in the shotgun. So they beat me round the back with the butt. But that was many, many years ago. And again, that's not what this video is about. And no, they weren't arrested. And no, the police didn't do anything about it. I did call them. They did attend. They said, making a fast, Fiona? So, I mean, victims, when we were burgled in 1987, I was livid. You're traumatised. That's your home. Someone has invaded your home. People who are victims of physical assault, I would assume, feel equally angry. They want to know why. That would be a victim's first question. Why? Why me? Why me? Why did you do this to me? Victims of harassment and stalking. Oh boy, yes. I've been there, done that, worn the t-shirt, starred in the video. And it's very difficult. If someone's stalking you and harassing you, I'll do a whole video on that because I think I kind of half cracked the nut for future victims who are suffering from that to help how to deal with that. Now, my first question in the Alex Belfield and Jeremy Vine case is, why were the victims allowed to suffer for 10 years? And we must call them victims because he has been convicted and that is how they've been classified. I'm not taking sides at all. But why was the situation not dealt with during a 10-year period? That is an enormous failure on the part of the police and the justice system, in my opinion. I can well understand why, because, as I say, I've had stalkers, I've had people harass online and in real life. And when I go to the police, they're very often, well, it's not that serious, we've got to kind of wait till they kill somebody. So I do understand the frustrations of that. There are many laws that deal with harassment and stalking, but they're largely ineffective or are not applied properly. Now, then again, I also ask the question, Alex now finds himself in the uncomfortable position of serving a prison sentence. Would it not have benefited Alex to have some preemptive or intervention policing, or for someone in the justice system to have done something for Alex's own sake, for him to understand you're getting close on thin ice? So I see it as really quite an utter failure in the justice system, and this is a subject that fascinates me. Now, the reason that particular case brought all this to my mind last night is because I became aware that there was a lady that Jeremy Vine had a road rage incident with, and she also was sent to prison, not at the behest of Jeremy, but as a consequence of Jeremy, he had a camera and he filmed it, and he made presumably a complaint to the police. Excuse me. And the police acted on that. Apparently the lady was on a bender. That's what we call it. A bender is a conditional discharge, a discharge with conditions, suspended sentence, things like that, where they've been sentenced in court and the court have said, you better behave yourself for the next couple of years. If you do commit any further offences during the bender, you're going to come back to court. You'll not only face for what you've come back to court for, but you will also face ultimately the original sentencing as well. And I believe that was the case with her. I don't know. So I looked up the article, and actually, to my astonishment, in the Evening Standard, there was yet another road rage case with Jeremy, but there was no arrest or conviction, I don't think, with that one. So I'm going to read, and this is all under the fair use and fair dealing, because I think it's a very important subject. Let me find the Jeremy. Here we go. It's headed, and all I did was I searched Jeremy Vine, road rage, and this article came up in the Evening Standard. It was published on the 26th of April 2017, and it's written by someone called Tom Powell. Never heard of him, but this is his article. And there is profanity in this. If anybody doesn't like profanity, there is profanity in the headline of this article, and it's part of its subject matter. Headline: Driver shouts, "Fuck your mum" at Jeremy Vine in latest road rage clash. Broadcaster Jeremy Vine has shared footage of a motorist almost knocking him off his bike and then shouting, "Fuck your mum." The BBC presenter got caught up in this latest road rage incident in Kensington while cycling along a busy high street. The clip taken from his bike cam shows a black Mercedes turning into a side street, apparently unaware of Mr. Vine, 51, on his bike. It cuts right across his path and he is forced to suddenly brake, almost slamming into the bonnet of the car. The Eggheads host, I don't know what Eggheads is. I'm not really familiar with Jeremy Vine because we don't live in the UK and we don't have BBC.
I think it's the name of a show.
I think it is because there's a capital letter on Eggheads. The Eggheads host, he's a host, can be heard wailing in disgust before the driver barks back from his window, "Fuck your mum." Mr. Vine captioned the video, which was shared hundreds of times within hours, with "You meet a better class of person in Kensington." It comes as a woman found guilty of road rage offences against him had her appeal against the conviction dismissed by a judge. Shanique Serena Pearson admitted she used inappropriate language and pushed the presenter's bicycle, but she said she did not assault him and simply wanted him to move out of the way of her car in the road rage clash last August. So this new road rage incident happened after the one with the lady. Okay. On April the 18th, the 22-year-old was sentenced to 1 month in jail over the road rage incident, which Mr. Vine had filmed and shared on social media at the time. He told the appeal hearing how he was afraid during the confrontation. He said, "I felt threatened, I felt I was in danger, I felt I was dealing with a violent person. None of that was clear to me when she was in the car. It became clear through this incident as she assaulted, abused and threatened me." The 22-year-old was convicted of driving an unlicensed vehicle. I'm not sure what that means. Does that mean no road tax? Unlicensed vehicle? Not registered with the DVLA? I don't know what that is.
Tax, I think.
Was convicted of driving an unlicensed vehicle, with driving without reasonable consideration for other road users, and using threatening, abusive or insulting words or behaviour in February. He has posted footage of several other apparent near misses as he cycles through London on his daily commute, many of which have sent social media users into a furious debate over who is in the wrong. Mr. Vine's mother is Diana Tillett, who married his father Guy Vine in 1964 before giving birth to the future presenter a year later. I'm not quite sure why that's relevant. And that seems to be the end of the article. That was a really weird end to the article.
It just keeps going up.
I'm looking, it's all full of adverts. No, that was the end of the article. I mean, that is absolutely... What relevance has that got? Who his mum and dad are? And when they gave birth to him. Goodness me. And there was another article, and actually there's a video, which I think you can look up. If you look up Jeremy Vine Road Rage, he was interviewed on Lorraine. And he actually said that he was very, very sorry that the lady had gone to prison. She'd gone to prison apparently because she already had this bender, and it was a culmination. I have no idea what her previous record was. But he said to Lorraine he would have been satisfied with just an apology, and he was very sorry that she'd gone to prison. Now, it was the fact that I saw that Lorraine interview that's really thought-provoked this video. That, to me, suggests that Jeremy could possibly also be an advocate for victim-offender mediation. Perhaps that's an option that he would have liked. As he indicated, he was sorry she went to prison, and obviously this incident with this lady was like a one blip, whereas the case with Alex was an ongoing thing. But, and I wouldn't want to encourage any victim to have to confront their offender. You know, it's traumatic, and that's not the way it works. It's very much up to the victim initially, as I understand it, whether that's something they'd want to do. You know, some people might want to go and say, yeah, why did you do that? Why did you ruin my life? Why did you fuck up my life? Who are you anyway? What the hell happened to you in life to make you do that thing to me? And it could not only reduce crime, and apparently there is evidence that it does seriously reduce crime, it could take the heat out of a lot of these situations. Now, I see there are other people discussing Alex Belfield on YouTube, and good, because it's a situation I think should be discussed from all angles. From the victim's angle, from people who support Alex and feel he's the victim. But it's got to be done in such a way as to take the heat out of it. Alex has been sentenced. He is in prison. I have seen comments that apparently that is not a satisfactory outcome. That some people believe that perhaps the stocks would have been better, or a public lashing, or firing squad. I mean, at what point does a victim or a supporter of a victim start to think, I'm actually becoming Alex Belfield? I am so full of anger and vengeance and bile, and I want to hurt and hate and hate and hate. At what point do they realise that's got to stop? It's not good for the individual to feel like that. Now, there is an organisation which I'd never heard of before, and I just googled this morning to see if anybody out there is beginning to think of giving the victims answers primarily, getting the offender to understand what they've done, giving the offender a chance to talk to the victim and say, I'm really sorry, I fucked up, I've had a shitty life, or I haven't had a shitty life, or whatever. That's between those two individuals. And there is apparently a thing. I'm on the cps.gov.uk website, and this thing is called restorative justice. And apparently there is legislation covering this. They call it RJ for short. The aims of RJ are commonly to be stated: victim satisfaction, to reduce the fear of the victim and ensure they feel paid back for the harm that has been done to them; engagement with the perpetrator to ensure that they are aware of the consequences of their actions; creation of community capital. I'm not sure about this one. It's a bit arty-farty for me, I think. To increase public confidence in criminal justice system and other agencies, blah, 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 blah. And they go on like that. My concern would be primarily with the victim and secondly with the offender. They're the human beings involved in this. The police, the justice system is there for a purpose. And the other website that I found is quite an interesting organisation that I've never heard of before. I have heard of the CPS before, by the way. That wasn't the one I was talking about. It's called College of Policing. Now, to me, I think it's a lobbying group. On their About page, they say, the College of Policing is a professional body for everyone working across policing. It is an operationally independent, arm's-length body of the Home Office. I assume they're talking about our Home Office because it's a .uk website. It's college.police.uk. Now, it's really interesting, and that's where I found this VOM. It's a terrible acronym, isn't it? VOM. Sounds like vomit. They talk here, the focus of the intervention. Victim offender mediation, in brackets VOM, involves a scheduled face-to-face meeting between the victims of crime and the offender. The meeting gives offenders and victims the chance to discuss the offence and the consequences and decide what the offender should do to repair the harm caused by the crime. This includes an apology and may involve financial reparations for the offender. VOM may be voluntary or court-ordered. VOM can be used instead of a custodial sentence or at the end of a prison sentence. Now, as I understand it from the CPS, these sort of voluntary arrangements, they can happen before sentencing and also during prison, and I just think it would help a lot. There was a guy years ago that we absolutely hated. He's actually a lovely guy, and I am certainly not going to name him. He's a spectacular guy. He's lovely. We were friends with him. And then he just started hating us, and which made us hate him. And it went on for years. He hated us, and we double hated him, and he hated us, and we double hated him. And it was all because of a third-party shit stirrer who just loves to do that kind of thing for fun and a living. One day I just walked up to him and I said, "Why do you hate us so much?" And he had a little rant, and then he said, "I don't really know." And I said, "We don't actually hate you." Now, I wouldn't say we're the best of friends to this day, but we get on very well. We say hello, good morning, and the heat just... So do victims want... Any victims, any of you out there that have been victims of crime, would you prefer to pour petrol on an already existing situation and have it exacerbate into hatred and online social media attacks, and it's more and more and more and more negativity? Or would you prefer that would Alex's victims have preferred this have been dealt with perhaps within the first 6 months, the first 12 months, if the police had said, okay, we're going to sit everybody down together. This nonsense has got to stop. Or would they have preferred it goes on 10 years and they feel that they've been ignored by the police or there's nothing the police can do? Is this a worthwhile thing to explore, to try and reduce crime, reduce the number of people who are in prison, and improve the quality of life for everyone all around? I am, by the way, not at all suggesting that cyclists in big cities such as London, that I know there is conflict, but I'm not suggesting cyclists are right, motorists are right, or individual situations, or that Jeremy, for whatever reason, set situations up. He's clearly been a victim of crime more than once, and more than one person has gone to prison as a result of his complaints to the police. Thoughts, opinions, advice? Am I just really stupid and naive by thinking that maybe getting two people to sit down, and obviously it would depend on the crime. When you have a rape victim, the last thing they're going to want to do is sit in a room with their abuser, so I'm not sure it would be applicable there. It would be very much up to the victim, and it would depend on the type of offence. So, stuff to think about. Thoughts, opinions? Below. Thank you very much. I got through that without any interruptions. This is the secret of success, isn't it? Early mornings.